Hi, I'm Kara McNull and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! And today I'm going to show you how to make this gatefold card. It looks like this. It uses the gold embossing powder on the side and on the front and on the envelope. So let's get started. The stamp sets we'll be using today are the Ribbon of Courage, and we will be using the heart and the sentiment sending love and hugs to you. We will also be using the Timeless Textures stamp set, and we'll be using this image here. For the dies, the framelits, we will be using the small heart that is from Support Ribbon Framelits, and you can bundle that with the Ribbon of Courage stamp set. And we will also be using a retired framelits. It's from the Hearts Collection, and we'll be using this heart here, the second one from the middle. So we'll put those aside and we'll get started. So our supplies today are rich raspberry card base, and this is cut 4 1/4 by 11, and it is scored ahead of time with my Stampin' Trimmer, and I used a scoring blade at 2 3/4, and then I flipped it and I scored it again at 2 3/4, so it's equal sides on the left and the right. And let's get the designer series paper. Comes from the Occasions catalog, and it's on page 19, and it's the Painted with Love specialty designer series paper. So you can purchase this paper only until May 31st of 2018. So if you want it, it is a specialty paper. It is only single-sided. So the pieces that we'll be using today are this. Look like, actually they're not all double-sided, but what makes it special is it usually has like some kind of gold embossing in it. Or some foil paper. So that's what makes it special, and it's also thicker than your normal designer series paper. Okay, so let's start stamping. Like I said, we'll be doing a lot of heat embossing today, so we'll be using the heat tool. Hopefully we can do it all at once, and we'll get our stamping out of the way. So we'll need Versamark ink, and even though my ink pad looks horrible, it actually is just fine. We'll need our embossing buddy, so we'll just rub that over the scrap piece of Very Vanilla, and that just removes the static and any fingerprints. So I'm just going to ink this up, the heart stamp, with a Versamark, and then just stamp it down. And what I'll do is, right now I'm going to add the gold embossing powder, and I just keep mine in a storage container. And I've got a spoon here, and I'll just sprinkle this over and tap it over. Okay, so then we're going to just set this aside for right now. Our next piece is for the inside panel, and we're going to create the embossing here. So this is a piece of Very Vanilla, and it's got 4 by 5 1/4. And again, we'll use our embossing buddy. And this time I'm going to do it on both sides because I want to see what it looks like embossed on the left and right side. So we'll take out the stamp again from the Timeless Textures, and we're just going to ink this up. And just make sure you don't go in the same direction, just alternate. It's hard to see your image, but it is there. So we're just going to do that side for right now. And I'll bring my embossing powder in one more time. And just sprinkle it over across and let it just go down over the side here. And tap it. And then you just look at it. It's hard to tell that if you've got it really stamped because it's kind of a vintage look, but it looks pretty good to me. So we'll go with that. And I'm going to just flip it over. Actually, I'm going to set this aside because we'll go back and emboss this one because I need a place to hold on to. And then lastly, our Very Vanilla envelope, and we'll be embossing that right in the lower left corner with the same vintage stamp. And we'll just, again, we'll use the Versamark, and I'll just ink it up over here. And I'll bring in my gold embossing powder. And there we go. So let's get started with the heat tool. It will be fairly loud, so I'll try to get this done as quickly as possible. And hopefully you can see this on camera. It's very, very hard to, but it does turn very quickly. Alright, so the envelope is done. And we'll go to our heart. That's next. One thing about heat embossing is you've got to be careful you don't burn your fingers. And you also have to be careful that you have it totally embossed. Just one more small part over here. Alright, and the last one is going to be our panel for the inside. This one seems to take a little bit longer because of the depth of the stamp. The image, there's a lot more powder. It just takes a little bit longer to heat set. Okay. Alright, so that looks good. We'll turn that off. Okay, so that's what it looks like. And again, we're going to do this side because I wanted to see what it looked like both sides. And then you can let me know in the comment section below what you prefer. So again, we'll take the the embossing buddy and we'll just remove our fingerprints, especially because that's the side I was holding on to. So we're just going to ink this up again 3 times. And we'll set this aside. Bring in our gold embossing powder. And we'll just sprinkle it over here. And just give it a tap. So that looks pretty good. Get rid of this here. Alright, so let's heat this side. Okay, that's heat set. So I'm going to put this aside and let it just cool off because it's fairly hot. And then one last piece that we do have to emboss is the heart here on the front of the card. Here I did use the gold embossing powder for that. So I've pre-cut this ahead of time using the die from the Hearts Collection. And again, just quick embossing powder. And bring in the stamp. And right now I'm just going to stamp all over this. You can probably see the ink here. Just turn this a little bit. I don't want the same pattern, so. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I promise this is the last time we'll be using the gold embossing powder. And this is a little tricky because you got to find a place that doesn't have the embossing powder on it. Just because I've cut this out ahead of time. Now you wouldn't do that. You could use a piece of scrap, rich raspberry, heat set it, and then use your Bake Shot to cut it out. But I wanted to save that step. This one goes fairly quick once it's hot. I think you'll be able to see it on camera. I hope you will. It's kind of like magic. It just turns so quickly once it gets hot. Alright, that looks pretty good. So we are done with the heat tool, done with the embossing powder, all that good stuff. So now it's just assembling well, not really assembling the card because we've got to work on this part, putting in the sentiment. So I have the rich raspberry ink and my sentiment, and hopefully I'll get this straight. I'm just going to put it right here. Sorry if my head's in the camera. Well, that looks pretty good. I just re-inked my ink pad, so it's pretty bright color. All right, so let's bring in our Rich Razzleberry card base and our Designer Series paper. And we're just going to bring in our adhesive and assemble the card. So we're just going to run the adhesive on all 4 corners. And I'm going to attach it to this side with 1/4 inch on all 4 sides. And again, this piece. Once you get the heat embossing done, this is a really quick card. Okay, and that side is 1/4 inch. All right, so let's put our inside panel on, and I'm going to run adhesive on all 4 sides because normally I just do it at the top, but since this has been heat embossed, when I heat emboss, I like to do use a little bit more adhesive than normal. Okay, so that's that. Our next step is to assemble the heart. So when we put the adhesive on, we're not going to want to put it on all the heart because then you wouldn't be able to open the card. So you want to just put it on this side of the heart. So we'll flip this over, and we're just going to run adhesive over here. And then I'm looking at the point here and making sure that it's centered. Okay, so now I cut this out ahead of time using the Big Shot and the heart that comes with the Ribbon of Courage, or Support Ribbon Framelits. I'm just going to use a Stampin' Dimensional on the back side of this, the heart here, and we'll peel off the backing, and then we're going to add it right to the front of that heart. So there's our card for today. So here's the one we just created, and here's the one that I created earlier today with just the heat embossing on this side. I absolutely love, both love this one. This one is okay, but I just think adding, taking a little bit of extra time and adding the gold embossing on both sides really lifts this card up to the next level. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Again, here's the envelope. And for all your Stampin' Up! Needs, please visit my website at inspiredbygram.com. Thanks for watching and have a great day.